So welcome to the channel. In this video, we're taking a deep dive into Lido Finance. The LSD narrative is really kicking off here. The first week in January, seeing some huge gains across the board for the LSDs. Lido being the top dog in this ecosystem and posting some huge gains here. So going to deep dive exactly what Lido does, what it does well, and what needs to be improved here, things around tokenomics and centralization. If you enjoy the content today, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment down below. It really does help me out. Now, starting here, you can see the Ethereum price around 1,300 bucks. So this is going to give us the total addressable market here for these liquid staking derivatives. Currently around 15% of all ETH is staked. However, in March with the Shanghai Upgrade, the beacon chain withdrawals will be enabled. This undoubtedly will drive more life into the liquid staking narrative and ensure a higher percentage staking rate for ETH, the asset. So currently, if we just said half of the total ETH will become staked at some point, that would give the LSD narrative a total market cap of around $80 billion. The current market cap here right about now is just 2.55 billion. So as you can see, the addressable market for this one is rather huge. Hence, this is a strong narrative and one to really take note of. Starting here with Lido, what does it do? Well, of course, it does liquid staking for ETH, but not just ETH, a load of other L1s as well, the likes of Solana, Polygon, Kusama, and Polkadot as well down there. Currently around $6.4 billion worth of staked Ethereum at this moment in time at a staking rate of 4.6% APR. So this really is the market leader for a number of reasons. You know, some of the best devs in crypto are behind this, some of the biggest VCs, backers, and notable names over on crypto Twitter. You also have with Lido a lot of lindiness. This has not been hacked as yet. And as time progresses, the more comfortable people get with these protocols, it kind of develops this moat around it. It's also highly usable, the stETH token, the staking derivative, as it's compatible with tons of different DeFi applications. More on that in just a second. So when we look at these liquid staking derivative TVLs over the last 7 days in particular, what we can see is more ETH has been staked with them, but also the Ethereum price has gone up as well. So this actually affects the TVL, the underlying amount, which is obviously ETH here. That has been going up as well. So a little bit of a skewed metric here. But if you just look through the list here, Lido number 1, the market leader. Second, cbETH with Coinbase is number 2. Rocket Pool down in 3, Stakewise 4, Stakehound, then Anchor, then Frax, some of the real participants and movers and shakers of this industry. So roughly, say, a 10% move in terms of TVL over the last week. But when you look at the token prices, you can see the narrative really heating up here. Big double-digit gains, even a triple-digit gain there for the likes of Stakewise. So this LSD narrative is really starting to heat up, and investors are definitely piling in here as these kind of moves are pushing up token valuations and market caps by tens and even hundreds of millions of dollars. Now let's just have a little look at some more stats. The current market share of Lido is around 66%. A long ways away from the nearest competitor, Rocket Pool around 3%, and a load of these under 1% in terms of market share. So Lido is out and out the market leader. And what we know with market leaders generally in crypto, they build these moats and they just generally grow faster than their competitors. You obviously usually get like the second or third starting to close the gap somewhat. However, the market leader usually keeps its market leader position. Now, in terms of issues for Lido Finance, I would say centralization is a key one. Not just only the centralization of governance due to the fact the token holders, the biggest holders, own loads of the tokens, but because this is highly backed by a load of VCs who essentially call the shots. So if you see the token distribution on your right-hand side here, the top holders, say the top 10 holders here, own 52% of all tokens, top 20 holders, 67%, top 50 holders, 82.5%, and the top 100 holders for the Lido token own over 90% of all that circulating supply. So if we look at some of the unlocks, is this something to be afraid of? There's currently linear unlocks taking place. Every day, around $500,000 worth of tokens being emitted into supply. But there's not a major dump until the end of August 2023, where 8.5 million tokens vest out in a cliff, and this will lead to 8.5 million Lido tokens being released on the market. Just going down here on the left-hand side, you can see the vesting allocation. Vesting goes to around 40% team and validators, 25% for DAO treasury, and 35% to the investors. And on this chart to the right-hand side here, you can see this is where we are currently. The majority of emissions have now taken place, and this does coincide with the Lido token price really starting to improve here as the hockey stick has now ended. On this token unlocks page, you can also see the various participants within this, but more on this through the tweet that Brad Lorry posted back in 2021. So I wanted to dip into this one a little bit. What was the seed round price for Lido? Is there going to be token dumpage down the line? Yes, of course there will be. The seed round was just 1 cent. So this was confirmed by Kobe. He says the Lido initial was around 1 cent and the second round that Paradigm, etc. jumped in with was around 65 cents. So individuals right now with a price of around $1.90 are up 190x from the initial seed round, which is quite intriguing. And then you have the others in the second seed round getting in around 65 cents. So they're up roughly a 3x on their money right about now, which isn't too bad at all. Those involved in the earliest rounds, the likes of Banteg, one of the big developers behind this, Kane Warwick from Synthetics, Stani from Aave Protocol, and a load of others you may have well heard of, Parafy. Those involved in the second round, the likes of 3AC, Jump Trading, DCG Group, Alabama Research. There's some names in here that may be troubling down the line due to the fact that these guys are either already screwed or maybe potentially going to be screwed here. And so there could be some liquidations of these tokens down the line as these guys have unfortunately kicked the bucket in terms of investing terms. So I would say that this is a little bit of a worry for the token price and something I would monitor if I was invested into this token. What fee does Lido charge? So if you stake your ETH with Lido, which I'll show you in just a moment, you get stETH. The fee that they take is 10%, 5% of which goes to the validators, those who are running the operations of those staking nodes. They get nicely rewarded with 5%, and then the other 5% goes to the Lido DAO. Previously, it was going to an insurance fund. This is the insurance fund here, and it is around $7.9 million. In staked ETH, that is within that insurance fund. So this would be to protect from any slashing that occurs if the validators aren't online enough, or if they start to miss some blocks or other nefarious activities. You can get slashed on your stake, and this is the insurance fund that would cover that. They then had a governance proposal to actually move the 5% fee from the insurance fund over to that DAO. The DAO, of course, going to be controlled by a load of these guys, the early investors, team advisors, etc. They're the ones that hold the keys to governance. So no real value accrual here for the Lido token, but often, as we see in crypto, if the narrative is strong, the token price goes up regardless. It doesn't always have to have good tokenomics, even though I would rather it does. It doesn't. It is a useless governance token. There also seems to be some of the early investors who are continuing to hold their bags, maybe the likes of Paradigm. They want some control over the governance, but others who invested early on, for example, Stani on screen here, he invested at 1 cent, but his average pullout price is around $1.21. Someone's neatly marked out all of his sell orders here. He did some great bit of VC investment there, making off like a bandit, and has banked some serious gains, so pat on the back to him. But this just indicates when there are big token unlocks, you are often going to see a dip in the price around these times. Now, for the average investor, how useful is holding the Lido LDO token? I would say not very. It is a useless governance token, due to the fact there's no chance you're going to be able to afford enough of these tokens to have any influence over governance procedures. So this was one of the more contentious decisions recently. This was a vote around improving the incentive structure for the Lido on Polygon team. The proposal was to increase the amount of Lido tokens by 500,000 as incentives for the Shard Labs team. This would take up their allocation to 1.5 million Lido tokens. On the right hand side, you can see the results were for vote 32 million Lido and against 7.1 million. But as you can see, the likes of some of these big VCs here have such huge clout that they just sway the vote with just their own inputs. Both of the top 4 votes here would have been enough to negate all of those voting against. Now onto the Lido interface. This is one of the great things about it. It's super simple to use. Connect your wallet. If you've got some ETH, come in here and you can start converting that ETH into stETH. So you deposit your ETH, it gets sent to that staking pool contract. It is non-custodial. That pool cannot spend your ETH, and then Lido will delegate that ETH to a validator to run the validator to get that ETH staked on the beacon chain for you. So a very simple process. You would then get staked ETH in your wallet, and you're going to get around 4.6% APR for that. Now this is a rebase token. So what this means is, say you convert 1 ETH and you get 1 staked ETH back. Over time, your staked ETH balance will go up. So say it's 1 today, it might be 1.001 tomorrow, the next day 1.002, and so on and so forth. The only negative I can see for that is these rebasing tokens are pretty difficult when it comes to tax time. But overall, the kind of interface behind Lido, super simple to use, and you can see why this would be normie friendly. I also think this is highly noteworthy, the bug bounties for Lido as well. They have up to $2 million in bug bounties if you can report a major vulnerability. They've also given out a total of 7 other bug bounties at 250K. So this really means that white hat hackers are more likely than black hat. If you can get paid $2 million rather than having to try and steal some funds and run for your life, I think this is a pretty good incentive structure. And as you can see, this adds to the lindiness behind Lido, making it more trusted. Hasn't been hacked yet. The longer that goes on for, the more trust you can have in the protocol. Then if we get into the competitive moat around staked ETH. So this is the LSD. The liquid staking derivative is called staked ETH for Lido. And the fact, if you go on to DeFi Llama here and you type in the staked ETH token, you can see what it can be used within across DeFi. It is hugely composable here and can be utilized as if it's almost ETH across so many platforms. This is a major leg up against the other liquid staking derivatives, and it shows you the business development team of Lido, and the marketing and obviously the money they have behind them means they can partner with a load of these, and oftentimes there's some rewards involved as well. They'll give out LDO token incentives to make the staked ETH liquidity good across these various protocols. And I was just looking earlier that the top, I think it's 30 protocols on here have over 500K in TVL, and the top 26 up have over $1 million, and then the top 13 and up have roughly $10 million in TVL on them, and then you're into some big boys up here. So this means stETH is highly composable. You can use it across loads of DeFi applications. And so when you're thinking about which LSD do you want, well, for the majority of people, especially for the more sophisticated users, well, they'll be like, if I can take Lido's stETH, I can pretty much use it however I want to. This also exacerbated by the following tweet. Lido is now on L2 bridge staked ETH across to the likes of Arbitrum and Optimism. This is in the form of W staked ETH, so WST ETH is the token name. So again, this just means it can be used on a wide variety of places and gives it that kind of competitive moat against many other liquid staking derivatives. Now, over the last 24 hours in particular, there's been some huge movement for the Lido token, so more on that. Carl posted this earlier, Lido token running the same old playbook as Doge. Strong narrative with a lot of spot buyers and a high short interest leads to huge upward liquidation driven momentum. He says currently the longs were being paid 477% annually just to hold their longs. So when you get a load of short interest, this means you can get huge price spikes as individuals get liquidated. So you can see on the pump that happened last night, late on the 8th of Jan here, 65% pump, $10 million worth of open interest here wiped from the board, over 30 million to around just over 20 million, and a funding reset for the token. So of course, a bit of whale games getting involved in here as well, but that is why there was a huge wick late last night, and this has helped send the rest of the liquid staking derivative market up as well. So final chart of the day here, looking at the price action. Thanks for sticking around for this one. If you've stuck with us this far, make sure you like, comment, subscribe down below, guys. We got more of these videos coming this week on the likes of Stakewise, Rocket Pool, Frax, and maybe some more. So a little bit TA on this one. I was charting this one out over the weekend, and this was the first area of resistance we moved into on the 8th of January. And I was looking across the board, all the LSDs were at resistance, and then it popped through. And so now we're looking at the next levels up around this green line, around $2.20-ish. We're also coming into an area of resistance across here from this downward trend. And at this moment in time, it has acted as a bit of resistance. We'll see how this one develops. Now, in terms of the week ahead in crypto, we do have CPI data coming out on the 12th. I don't expect it to come in too hot, so I don't think that will be something that will dampen spirits here in the crypto markets right about now. We've got some momentum behind us. But coming towards the end of the month, the dashed red line, we have Tesla and Apple, both with their earnings coming out and expected to probably be not that great, and also the GDP data as well. So that is the 26th of January. That is the kind of next speed bump on the road to Valhalla here for crypto, and I think this could be a bit of a sell-off area. So just a market in terms of time as to how long this current rally could run until before we hit some serious road bumps. And then in the orange or amber line here, around March is when the Shanghai Upgrade is due, and this is when the floods of capital could start to really move in to these liquid staking derivatives. And this will be a narrative that plays out over months and even years from now as well, as more and more people start to stake their Ethereum. So we've seen the early movement from traders, but there is a lot more to come from these liquid staking derivatives. And in terms of the Lido token price, I do believe it will see new all-time highs in the future. That can't be said for all shitcoins out there, but this has a very strong narrative, and as you can see, has built a competitive moat and is the numero uno in this market sector. So I hope you found this video enjoyable, entertaining, and of course, educational. If you did, of course, subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment me down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.